his reputation became enormous. So first thing he did was integrate subjective value theory and Austrian economics in general into the money sphere. And then by the end of his book, he really starts applying it to business cycles. He was the first great business cycle theorist because the phenomenon of business cycles had been discovered for a long time and analyzed and so forth. Nobody could quite figure it out. Because if a market tends toward equilibrium, tends toward a situation of full employment and everything clears and so forth and so on, how come there's always business cycle? How come there's booms, several years of booms always succeeded by several years of bust? And so there are all sorts of wild theories. For example, Stanley Jevons, who was quite good economist in his own right, had a sunspot theory. He believed that because the sun changes or whatever, this causes problems in the wheat crop. This somehow causes the business cycle. So a lot of nutty theories came up because they couldn't figure out anything else. So Mises first of all realized that it can't be a market phenomenon because the market, everything is tending toward clarity, and people learn from their experience and so forth and so on. And he began to realize it's really the intervention by the central bank in the money sphere that generates business cycles, and he works out the outlines of it in his theory of money and credit. From then on, he starts developing that. During the 1920s, he develops a whole more elaborate theory about how business cycles are caused by government intervention in the banking system, generating inflation through the central bank, and thereby causing malinvestment, or causing unsound investments, which the recession has to liquidate. See, the result is that the recession, even though, of course, pain in the neck, becomes an inevitable and necessary conclusion to a boom. In other words, once you start the boom process, the inflationary boom, which causes unsound investments, they have to be liquidated. So the recession process becomes the adjustment process. It's the method by which the market reasserts itself, the free market reasserts itself, so that you wind up after the recovery with an efficient system benefiting the consumers in the best possible way. As a result, the way to stop a business cycle, both the recession and the boom, is to stop the central bank from generating inflation, from expanding credit. The way to do that, of course, is to abolish the central bank. I mean, it's the easiest way to do it, or the simplest way, let's say, not politically easy. Short of abolishing the central bank, you chain it down, forbid it from doing anything, that sort of thing. So early in the game, then, Mises really reconstituted the approach of the money supply becomes a key factor, both in inflation and in business cycles, almost single-handed. Unfortunately, in the scholarly world, and this is still true, by the way, nobody reads a foreign language. Okay? We all pass, to get this PhD, even now you have to pass a language test. I think 2 languages, at least 1. And it's true, we all pass it, and it's all fake. I mean, nobody knows a damn thing. It's the sort of thing where, first of all, they allow you to have a dictionary. Okay? And so if you study German, let's say, for a couple of months, you can sort of parcel it out. And you can flunk it. I know somebody who flunked this French test about 3 times before they finally passed it. And obviously, you forget it the next day. And once you pass it, it's like, whew, that's over with. And so, as a result, nobody, especially in England and the United States, where we're all English chauvinists, nobody reads a foreign language. This meant that Mises' book, not having been translated until the mid-30s, in other words, it took almost 25 years for somebody to translate this theory of money and credit in English. Nobody read Mises, and nobody then has never got absorbed into the English-speaking world. It got absorbed into the continent, into Austria particularly. And so it was translated really too late. By the time it was translated, Keynes comes along, the whole thing gets swept aside. I'll get to that in a minute. But so this problem of translation became a key point in the transmission of ideas. As a matter of fact, one interesting thing was, an aside about the great Keynes, Keynes reviewed the book for the Economic Journal, which was the great prestigious journal in England, Economic Journal in England, still is. So Keynes reviewed the theory of money and credit. He says, well, it's an interesting book, but it hasn't got anything new to say. It's an interesting textbook on money. It turns out later on, Keynes admitted, I think his biographer admitted it, that Keynes didn't know German. This book was, of course, he reviewed a German book, right? And, or to put it this way, he knew enough German to understand something which he already knew, but he couldn't understand. He didn't know it enough to understand a new idea. Okay, so here this SOB says there's nothing new in this. So anyway, this